everybody, this is Andy. I'm the prop chef here at Two Perspective Studio. Today I'm going to be making a fairly easy project, a realistic fake coconut cake. Now you can use these for lots of different purposes, especially with the holidays coming up. It makes a great addition to home decor, centerpieces, lots of different things. Looks pretty realistic. You can either attach it onto a cake plate or you can leave it loose. As long as you build it on something that's fairly non-stick, you can leave it loose, and then you can move it around and change up your cake plates and stuff like that. I believe this is, hey Tracy, how are you? I believe this is an 8-inch. I should have measured it before I came on. Let me measure this real quick, make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Pretty sure this is an 8-inch. Hey Margarita, how are you? Yeah, this is an 8-inch. 8-inch by about 3 inches high. So I usually use, when I'm doing fake cakes, I usually use a cake form. They come in different sizes. You can get them in multi-packs, lots of different places. Hello Susan. This is a cake form. It's 3 inches thick. You can get 4-inch thick ones as well if you want a slightly taller cake. This is an 8-inch round, like I said. If you don't have cake forms, you can use the discs that you can get at the dollar store or Walmart or anything like that. They come in multi-packs. You can just use the discs and glue them together and make it however high you want it. I guess these are 1-inch, yeah, I think these are 1-inch discs that I have here. So in order to make this, you would glue 3 together. You know, easy peasy. Hello Cynthia. So I'm going to move this one out of the way. Like I said, I don't usually attach most of my cakes onto a plate. I usually sell them with a plate option in my Etsy shop and on my website. But if somebody wants to use a real glass plate or an antique plate or something like that, thank you for sprinkling, Liz. I appreciate it. You know, then they can take it and put it on whatever they want. So I usually give the option. But you just have to make sure that you build it on something non-stick. Set that over there for a minute. So that when it dries, you can just lift it off your non-stick surface and you don't have to worry about it. Even if you're doing something with resin that you're maybe like a cheesecake and you're putting some drizzle over it, just make sure you've got a nice silicone mat underneath it. And I mean, you can always build it to where it does stick to the plate, but just be wary, not, you know, if you're selling your items, not everybody likes that. So I'm going to start with my cake form. Like I said, you can use the discs and just glue them together. You've been thinking about making a coconut cake? It's pretty easy. As far as fake cakes go, this is one of the easier ones. I guess that's why I chose it for a Monday. I needed some easy in my life today, I think. So I'm going to show you how to make the coconut first, I think. I have a little bucket down here that I keep my coconut in. I also have a nice little fake cherry. This is the one with the blackened part on it that looks a little more like a realistic dark cherry and not the giant maraschino kind. I use both. It just depends on what I'm doing. For cakes, I like the little daintier one, I think. So I'm just going to put him over here. So I have a bunch of cheapo gadgets like I use in my kitchen. So I usually have like 2 of everything. This is like a Parmesan cheese grater like you see in the restaurants and stuff. I use these in my normal kitchen, you know, for grating Parmesan and stuff like that, hard cheeses. But I have one in the studio too, and I use them for not only grating polymer clay, which makes a nice Like I make cheese crumble in different colors that I use on some of my things that I do. And using a box grater or a little hand grater or these little twisty things is just perfect. But for coconut, what I use most of the time, you can use polymer clay if you want to. I use candle wax. It's pretty easy. You can tint it and make it look toasted with just a little bit of paint. You can see the difference between, this is some of the white that I shredded, and this is the toasted. The toasted, all I did was take a little bit of raw sienna paint. It's this one. I'm pretty sure raw sienna comes in a craft paint as well, but this is the professional Liquitex one. It's a little bit thicker. I just put it on the end of a toothpick in some of this shredded candle wax, and I swirl the toothpick around, and lo and behold, it makes something very similar to toasted coconut. I make a lot of Samoa cookies and things like that, and this toasted coconut wax is perfect. So if you want to make a toasted coconut cake, that's how you would do that. I'll put him over here. So this is from a floating candle. It had the little metal wick stopper in the back. I just use a X-Acto knife, and I just pick that out, and then you can just pull the wick right back out of the candle. And wax coming out. So you just basically do it like this was a hunk of Parmesan, and you put it in your little grater, and I usually keep a little bowl or a bag or something like that, and I'll just put it in there and hang on to it, and you just twirl the handle just like you were grating cheese, and it makes this. I'll put some on my surface here so I think you can see it. It's not, most of them are not like super long grain pieces. It's more like the finely shredded coconut kind of thing. So if you're looking for more of a long grain looking coconut, I would definitely go with the polymer clay. The only thing with the polymer clay is it's very sticky. It's harder to apply, and you really have to do several coats of glue to get it to stick on there very well. That's another reason why I prefer the just plain old candle wax. So I'm going to grate just a little bit more of this because I'm not sure that I have enough in my bag to do the whole cake. You don't need a whole lot. You don't want it in multiple layers on the cake because it won't stick, and if you have to put multiple layers of glue on there, it doesn't look natural. You just basically want a nice thin layer on there and give it the illusion that you really packed that coconut in like if you were making a real cake. So for what I did with mine is I used some spackle for my stickum. It helps stick all that fake coconut in there. And because this is styrofoam and I don't want my spackle to crack off when it dries, I make sure that I put a decent layer of glue all around my surface. And I just have a damp sponge brush here that I use Gorilla Glue most of the time more than craft glue. Craft glue is totally fine. I sell my stuff and I have to ship it all over, and you know how the shipping is. You never know what you're going to get or who's going to run it over or drop it down a hill. So I try and use pretty good strength stuff when I'm doing this, just to make sure that if somebody does drop this cake down a hill, It might lose a little bit of the coconut topping, but the spackle isn't going to crack and just ruin the whole thing. Because there's nothing worse than having to get something back in the mail and redo it. All right. Put my cap on here. Oh, 7-minute icing. Yum. I could eat the whole bowl of that. It's one of my favorites. All right. So I have some lightweight spackle. This is just the one time. There's a couple of different brands of this. They're all fairly similar. This one is a little thinner than the DAP. I think it's called Fast and Final. Sometimes people use both and mix them together to make a better consistency. The DAP, if you use it by itself, it's a little more difficult to pipe. It's thicker than this one. This one has a lot of air in it, so it's easier to pipe, but sometimes doesn't hold its shape if you're piping a lot of intricate decorations. So mixing the two together is sometimes a good thing to do, just to get a better consistency. I do use both. Just depends on what I'm doing. And after you've used them a couple of times, this is just the clear Gorilla Glue. It just has a little more grip, I think, than regular craft glue. I got away from craft glue just because I was having some issues. I tend to make some things that are a bit heavier, and that's why I go with a glue that's a little bit more potent. A little gluier glue. So there's a lot of ways to do this part. I'm not sure that I have a good stick here. Putting a nice skewer down in the middle of this thing will help you hang on to it and not get your hands all yucky as you're spinning it around. And I think I might have to go to the next bucket of spackle. I'm almost out here. And I'm not paying too much attention to smoothness or anything like that. I'm not going to worry about that because I'm going to pack that coconut into it. I actually want it to be a little bit thicker. Not tremendously thick, but a little thicker. I'm trying not to get too much stick on my paper here, but you will get some just because there's glue and all that good stuff. The main thing is to just try and get your spackle all the way down to the bottom. Let's see. I think that's probably good. And I'm going to change my paper out here real quick. Alright. And this is just about empty. Wipe off the glue off my fingers. Alright. So then all you have to do is pretty much the easy part. I put some on the top to begin with. And like I said, you don't want a ton. You want to make sure that you spread this out. If you have any chunks that are in there that chopped off in your little grater, pull them out. I do the top first just to give me sort of a place to put my hand if I need to keep it balanced, because you can touch this and you don't get really anything on there after that. Thank you, Liz. And really spread it out to where you just have that one layer. And you'll be able to know that when you go to lift it up. Because anything that's not sticking to the spackle is just going to hit your paper. Coconut cake is probably one of my favorite cakes. And then I'll do this and just dance it around a little bit to get all that loose off of there. And move that aside. Now, the easiest way to do the sides, this is shredded candle wax. I use a Parmesan grater, and just this is a wax, a floating wax candle, and I'll just shred it just like you do cheese. I'm going to put some on my surface here, and then it makes it easier to pack around the outside, the bottom of the outside, I guess I should say. That's why I said it's important to make sure your spackle goes all the way to the bottom, because you want to make sure that when you're packing your coconut, you get it all the way around the bottom. Unless you're going to pipe like a spackle decorative ring around the bottom, which you totally can do. I don't think most coconut cakes have the piping around the bottom. Usually, if anything, you see it like this with just a little bit of piping on the top. But you can pipe a whole decorative ring around the bottom, and then you don't have to worry so much about your coconut being all the way to the bottom. The styrofoam bases you can get lots of places, or you can glue together the just the discs. You can find these discs and just glue 3 together, and you'll have an 8x3 cake or a 6x3, whatever you want to make it. But you can find them at Walmart, Amazon. I know Amazon has a pretty decent selection of cake base styrofoams that are like to do a whole wedding cake. So you get several different sizes in the one package, and that's pretty cool. When I was a caterer, I used to do shows, wedding shows, and I would do some fake wedding cakes, and I would use those cake bases for that. Now I use them still for making fake cakes. I haven't made a real like fake wedding cake in a while. So you can do the sides in a couple of different ways. You can roll it in some that you have on your surface and just keep twirling and sticking it down on that spackle. You have to sort of work quick though, because spackle does tend to dry fairly quickly, and if that happens, you have to add more spackle, and that's a mess for sure. Now doing it like this gives you a pretty decent pack. And then you can just go back through with your hands and scoop up the leftovers and put it in the other spaces. Like I said, less is more when it comes to this shredded candle wax, because if you have too much on there, it'll pack in, but then as soon as you tap it, it's going to all fall off. I have a piece over here that I know as soon as I tap it, it's all going to fall. I want to make sure that I get this on there before it dries. And I thought these would be really pretty to add to like a winter scene for the holidays as a centerpiece. And you could jazz this up with all sorts of things. You could do all sorts of stuff with the top of a coconut cake to make it look like a really pretty winter wonderland kind of thing. You could jazz it up with little ornaments, greenery. It would look beautiful as a centerpiece, I think. They call the styrofoam. I think they call them, what do they call them? I think it's called artificial cake base, maybe. I can try and find a link. Cake form, that's what it's called. Artificial cake form. So it doesn't take much time to do this. You just have to sort of make sure that you pack it all in there and get all the empty spaces before your spackle dries. And then I usually just go around with my hands and pack it up. Yeah, you talking like floral foam gritty? I know what you mean. I don't like that either when I'm doing fake cake. Yeah, this is more foam discs you can look for if you're putting them together, or cake forms will give you this smooth styrofoam. So I'm just going and sort of packing those sides, and when you do this, it will, because I didn't put my spackle on, hello Lydia, because I didn't put my spackle on seriously smooth, packing it in with your hands like this will smooth out those sides, and then you won't even notice what a bad job I did with my icing. Because it doesn't matter once you get all this coconut on there. Coconut makes it bumpy. So if you don't smooth out your spackle all that much, it's actually a good thing in the end because it looks more realistic, I think. I think there's just a little bit right here. So when you think you have it, shake it off. I'm not having a lot fall, so that's a good thing. That means I've got it packed on here pretty good. And after it's all dry, I'll take something like an acrylic sealer. Lots of companies make it. Krylon, Mod Podge even makes a good one. You can use a satin finish for this, and it won't gloss it up too much. It'll still look more natural in a satin finish. They make just a. I know in the Krylon they have a satin, they have a semi-gloss, they have a gloss, and then they have a super gloss. So you can kind of choose your finishes when it comes to the spray sealers. Alright, and I need to get my, there we go. And the hole in the center doesn't really matter because I'm going to pipe a nice little decoration. Oh, that's lovely. Maybe wear gloves when you're doing this. One of my favorite things to say is don't do what I do. Do it the right way. When you're live, sometimes you just don't pay attention. You just go with it and you make a mess, and it's okay. Alright, get some of this spackle off my hands. And I have a lot of, it's a good thing I have big pockets on my apron because I have a lot of this wax falling into the pockets of my apron. Okay, so before I do the piping on the top, I tend to like these larger, I like this one for doing just a little bloop in the top. It says it's a 9FT. I don't know if that is, I don't think that's a Wilton number. I think it's another number. But you can find these barrel tips lots of places. Hi, Carol. Now before you go piping on the top of your coconut, you're going to want to make sure you add more glue. If not, when your nice little decoration dries, you're going to be able to lift it right off. Ask me how I know that. To find your center, it's a good thing to use a tape measure. That way you'll get it right the first time and your decoration won't be in the wrong space. And you can just use a little marker. So this is an 8-inch, and I'm going as close to the center as I can here. And then I'm going to go back the other way and make sure that I'm right. And I'll divot out just a little area, and that'll be my center point. I don't know how many times I've tried to do it just eyeballing it, and it'll be off one side or the other, and it drives me crazy. So I'm going to put a decent dollop of glue, and I'm going to wait just a minute to where it'll start to seep in just a little bit through that wax and into the spackle area. I hope I didn't miss any questions. If you did, you can shout them out again. And if you wanted to add the toasted coconut on any portion of this, you can do that too. You could also add any sort of embellishment. Just make sure that you glue them on there really well. So I'm going to use just a little swirl here. I'm going to make a bigger one than I did on the other one. Just a nice little swirl. And I'm not sure if I want to pipe the bottom of this one or not. I didn't the other one. What do you think? Should we try piping it and see what it looks like? I have my cherry. Now you can, I don't usually glue my cherries in. Some people do, but I have never had one come back out of the spackle. So I just set my cherry in there. And then you can really decide whether you want to pipe the bottom or not. Let's see if I can lift this to clean my area. I'm going to put this coconut back in the bag. You notice I never say candle wax. I call it by its real food name. I act like this is all real food. And like I said before, if you want to make it toasted, all you have to do is add the end of a toothpick with a little drop of like a raw sienna, and it makes it look like a toasted coconut. So you can do that as well. Lots of things you can do with the same item just to make it totally look different. So I'm going to bring that back over here. And you can make these any size. You can even do double stackers, or just whatever grabs your fancy, I guess. But you could definitely put greenery or cranberries or more cherries or anything like that on your cake to make it a little more holiday-ish. If you're going to use this as a part of a centerpiece or as the centerpiece, anything like that. You could also drape some greenery around the bottom. That would be super pretty. I found these little cute little fur, I guess it's like a fake fur little thing, but if you were to put some of the little fur pieces, you could clip them off, I think, and just make it as a little, or you could put a decoration all the way up the side. That would be cute too. I can think of a lot of things that I could do with this cake, for sure. Or like I said, I have way too big of a tip on there, but putting the area around the bottom and then putting some greenery in it, I think would be lovely. So, does anybody have any questions about this? I know I did this kind of quick. It's like I said, seriously, it's one of the easier fake cakes to do, for sure. Doesn't take hardly any time, and like I said, it's just a matter of drying now. And then after it's dry, if you just take that cake and make sure that everything's shored up, if you just knock it to one side or the other, and you can glue it down to the plate, or you don't have to. It's a super easy thing to make, and you can dress it up however you like. So, I guess that didn't even take me 45 minutes. That's a bummer. Who's going to try and make this? I want to know that. How many people think that they're going to try to make a realistic fake cake to do something with for the holidays? Because these are, they're super, you saw how easy that was. This is just an hour project. You could probably do this with a child too. And you see, if you put these little greeneries on the side, they keep falling off. These would be cute too. Just running some greenery around the outside of it. Maybe putting some little snowflakes around it, something like that. That would be super cute. I definitely thought this was going to take me the full 45 minutes, but it definitely didn't. So you see how quick this one is. I'm going to have to get better on my time. This is only I guess this is the third time that I've been on here. So, where do I get my cherries? I actually source those. I sell both varieties in my Etsy shop. I source them from different places, and I found I really like the smaller realistic ones. They're both in my Etsy shop, and they're on my website. So you'll see one that says maraschino variety and the other one that says realistic dark cherry. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. So I'm going to let you guys go. I know there's another creator coming up after me. I'm sorry I didn't take my full 45 minutes. I promise I'll get better at this. I need to do my time a little better. But if anybody has any questions about this or any of the products that I used or anything like that, I'm always up for questions, so that you can message me anytime. Thank you for the welcome. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to let you go. I will see you next time. I am Andy from Two Perspective Studio, known as the PropChef. That's all I do, is prop food all day long. Thanks everybody for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.